Hello there guys, welcome to another of my live videos, and today I'm just be officially updating you on some more latest news. So these are lots to negotiate on this video today. Recent reports have indicated out saying that Ed Woodward has reportedly been given 6 potential transfer targets by Ole Gunnar Solsjaker, because I did recently say I think Manchester United need at least 5 to 6 more signings if we are to be back to being a competitive elite level football club. And obviously you can see the deficiencies in the squad. I think Manchester United do need a midfielder. We need to add depth in that midfield, we need to see creativeness in that midfield, and that's obviously one of the priority areas where Manchester United need to strengthen up. I also believe we do need a striker. We need to see inspiration in that attacking third in the pitch, because obviously so far this season we have lacked goals, and I think we do look exposed in that attacking line, following the dismissal of Romelu Lukaku and Alexis Sanchez, obviously, and also, with the injury of Anthony Martial, and obviously, we had Rashford injured, not too long ago. But we know that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer recommended 3 good signings to the squad in the summer. We spent nearly £150 million on Daniel James and Wan-Bissaka, and on Harry Maguire, and they have done, really, really well so far. So I'm happy in the aspects during the summer that we did, address some of the problematic areas. We got that experienced centre half in, we also got that right back in, but we didn't address all the problematic areas. But that is my element of concern. But this is why some people are saying, maybe Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, does need to be given a couple more windows, to see who else, he can recommend into the football club. And I think Solskjaer's been assured money to spend in January, because probably, I should presume, Solskjaer, will be here in January. Obviously, recent reports did say that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's job at Manchester United is safe for this present time, and I think at least for the next couple of games, because obviously recent reports indicated out if we are to suffer a heavy defeat to Liverpool, which is obviously on Sunday, then that could put Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's job in serious jeopardy. And obviously it has been revealed how much it will cost Manchester United to sack Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and obviously it's mentioned that we'd have to pay around £7 million in compensation to sack him. Obviously that's I think around half than what we paid to get rid of Jose Mourinho, because I think we paid around £20 million to get rid of Jose Mourinho. But obviously you've got the vast majority of Manchester United fans demanding Ole Gunnar Solskjaer out of the football club. You've still got certain Manchester United fans backing Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, despite the fact we've had a disastrous start to this season. We are enjoying our worst start to a Premier League season for 3 decades. Obviously we're sitting just 2 points above relegation, so you can quite frankly say we are facing a relegation battle. Obviously I think it's 11 away games now Solskjaer's had without a win at Manchester United. We haven't won away from home since the PSG game last season, when we did produce that miraculous comeback. And since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got the job permanently, we've only won 5 of our last 23 games. And obviously we know that Solskjaer's been at Manchester United now overall for around 10 months. So he has been at the football club, just under a year. And I think he's enjoyed a difficult 7-month tenure with Manchester United, because obviously Solskjaer's been at the club since December of last year. Obviously he came in following the dismissal of Jose Mourinho. And Solskjaer came in at the first term as the interim manager, and when he was the interim manager, Solskjaer did really, really well in that 3-month period. The results were good, the performances were good, he exceeded expectations and that, and he got the best out of these group of players. But since he got the job permanently, everything of course has just seemed to have all gone wrong. But you're getting some former Manchester United players and that coming out saying we should still stick out with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Rio Ferdinand recently come out and said Manchester United would be naive to sack Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. You got Gary Neville coming out a couple of weeks ago, criticising the board and that. Obviously you've recently had Ryan Giggs coming out. Ryan Giggs came out and he says, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, in his opinion, needs more time at the football club. And in Giggs' opinion, he thinks, we need 4 or 5 more signings if the glory days are to return at Manchester United. But, like I said, maybe he does need a couple of more windows, analysing the majority of this Manchester United squad. Obviously, it isn't Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's. Actually, the majority of this team is actually, Jose Mourinho's. because Jose Mourinho recommended 11 players into the football club. Obviously, Solskjaer now is inheriting the vast majority of them. So you can still quite frankly say Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is in the process of rebuilding. But like I mentioned, I think, due to our inconsistency, I think, everyone has to take the blame. I think the vast majority of the blame does stem from the board. Obviously with their poor recruitment, their poor selection of managers. Obviously, they didn't back Ole Gunnar Solskjaer enough, during this summer, as they did actually, presume. But yeah, for me, in my opinion, I think the board have been a liability for several years, and I think the board do need to assure structural changes at the football club. But I don't think they're going to assure them structural changes at Manchester United. Yeah, some of the blame also stems from Solskjaer. He obviously has to take a responsibility. Because his tactics in that are questionable. We are tactically inept. I will admit that. And, I've got some element of concerns about him. And, some of the blame definitely stems from Solskjaer. Some of the blame also stems from the vast majority of the players, because obviously the vast majority of them have underperformed so far this season. So I think the vast majority of the players do need a reality check. And like I mentioned, I think despite the fact that a lot of players have left since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's arrival, I still believe, there is more players that do need to leave the football club. And, I think some of the blame, also stems from Ed Woodward, in my opinion. But I think, a mistake Manchester United made, was obviously, keeping it, was obviously giving Ole Gunnar Solskjaer the job. We should have never give Ole Gunnar Solskjaer the job. Like I mentioned, we should have waited at some point. We should have waited until the end of last season, or we should have waited at some point until this season, to decide, whether or not, to give him the job. And don't forget, Solskjaer, does have a 3-year contract. And I think, like I mentioned, I think the only reason at this present time why Manchester United is sticking with Solskjaer, because obviously, he was a club legend, he was a great long-serving player, he served, 11 years at Manchester United, obviously made 366 appearances in all competitions, scored 126 goals, and won 6 Premier League titles. And obviously one of his most iconic moments as a player came back in 1999, obviously when he won the club the treble, which was obviously over 20 years ago now. Obviously that's one of the club's greatest achievements. So Solskjaer has got that proven pedigree as a player, but he hasn't got any intuition as a manager. He hasn't really got that managerial experience to the highest level. So that's another element of concern I have got about him. Obviously, before Solskjaer came to United, he was at Mould. I think he won a couple of Norwegian titles with Mould. Obviously, before he was at Mould, he had a really short tenure with Cardiff. Obviously, he ended up, getting Cardiff relegated. I think he only managed Cardiff, for around 30 games. But yeah, I know Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he's not going to become successful at Manchester United. And obviously, the board are going to stick with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. But it is good that Man United, of course, are making plans for the January transfer window. But, if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, is to be still here by January, I think, he's still keen on continuing the policy of recruiting young British players, of course, like he did do earlier on in the summer. But yeah, and recently Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has come out, and I think he has got a lot of honesty in that. He's aware that he's under so much pressure at the football club, and I think he's come out and said if Man United, do finish out of the top 6 this season, he fears, he will be sacked by Manchester United. This is what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer feels. But I said at the start of this season, and I also mentioned at the end of last season that our expectations this season will be to obviously finishing that top 4. So in that aspect we can obviously get back into the Champions League. We've actually only failed to secure European football once since 1990. And that's 20 odd years ago now, and I think that actually came under the David Moyes era when we failed to qualify for European football. But like I said, we need Champions League football, and I've already disregarded the top 4. I've already disregarded that top 4. I think the way things are going, and if things do continue to persist, I don't even think we'll finish in the top 7. If I'm going to be quite honest here, but I did say that was one of the main factor reasons that went against us in the summer, of us not qualifying for the Champions League, because obviously if you're not in Champions League football, obviously, it's going to be harder to attract players to the elite level, and obviously, a lot of players during the course of the summer had element of concerns about coming to Manchester United. But like I mentioned, I do believe the players we was in for during the summer, will probably reignite our interest in them in January. Maybe we will leave some until next summer. But yeah, definitely, more signings are needed at the football club. Like I mentioned, this is the worst Manchester United team I've seen in this generation, for a lot of years, if I'm going to be quite honest with you. Because, like I said, reflecting back under the Alex Ferguson era, where we had a really, really good team. Like I mentioned, Ferguson, developed a lot of young players. Obviously, he controlled the transfer policy, he controlled a lot of the contracts. And, we had 26 years of success under Alex Ferguson and that. And I did say, regardless of who our manager is, no one's going to ever follow Alex Ferguson's legacy. Obviously, we're never going to, going to be the team that we was under Ferguson. Solsjaker definitely can't invoke Alex Ferguson's legacy, to save him at Manchester United, because we do know now in this generation, managers, don't get the time, that of course they would like. Like I mentioned, we haven't really got the structure to keep sacking managers. Obviously, Solskjaer is our fourth permanent manager since Ferguson era, like I mentioned, but we have already sacked 3 managers, since the Alex Ferguson era. Like I mentioned, we are sitting at 12th at the moment, and so far this season we've only registered 9 points from 8 league games, and we know that's nowhere near good enough to our standards. But for me, everything needs to improve at Manchester United. The results need to improve, the performances need to improve. I think, we need to see fundamental changes. I think, the style of play needs to improve. And I think us getting rid of Solskjaer, maybe at this present time or just before Christmas, probably wouldn't solve a lot of their problems at Manchester United. But you're getting a lot of Manchester United fans believing that Solskjaer, could end up, getting us relegated. I don't think we'll get relegated. Like I mentioned, the club's too big and that, obviously, the clubs are too big and that, and obviously there's too much money and that into the football club, and we haven't been relegated since 1974. But like I mentioned now, we're no longer under the Alex Ferguson era. We're in a different era now with different players and different groups, of course, that we are building. Like recently, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had mentioned. So, yes, we are making plans for January, so too is Ed Woodward. And so I think recently as well, Manchester United did assure that they are prepared to back Ole Gunnar Solskjaer with 8 new signings in the next 2 summer transfer windows, of course, if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is still at the football club. So I've been reading recent reports about some of the transfer rumours and that, as I have been giving you an update on. And I was reading reports today, and I was reading reports yesterday. There has been a lot of talks about Declan Rice quite recently. Now, do you think Declan Rice, would be the right calibre player for Manchester United? Now, we do know he's well Premier League proven. He initially learned his trade in the Premier League. Obviously, he's been at West Ham now for several years. Reportedly, he will cost the club a substantial amount of money. Reportedly, we may have to pay around £70 million for Declan Rice in January. I think the club actually inquired about getting him in the summer. I don't think it was one of our main priority targets, so I think, we was, tentatively linked with him. He is actually predominantly a defensive midfielder. He breaks up the play in that really, really well. And, we've probably seen him as an adequate replacement for Fernando Herrera. He's only 20 years of age. And, despite the fact that he's only 20 years of age, he has cemented himself as a regular in West Ham's midfield. I think he's made a total of 78 appearances for West Ham in all competitions. He's under contract with them until 2024 because he signed, I think, a new long-term contract in December of last year. Did you know Declan Rice? And he's actually flourished under Manuel Pellegrini's guidance. But yeah, maybe we'll have to spend a substantial amount, to recommend him in. But, I think he would be, the right player for Manchester United. But yeah, there has been a lot of talks about him. So he's one of the players on our agenda. I've been reading recent reports about Mario Mandzukic. Now, there has been a lot of talks about him going on. Now, recent reports have indicated out saying that Manchester United have reached a verbal agreement, allegedly, with Juventus for Mario Mandzukic. Now, we do know that obviously he's a cheaper solution. I think, reportedly Juventus are demanding that they want around £9 or £10 million, which is obviously not very, very, cheap. I think, the board may have some element of concerns about, recommending, Mario Mandzukic in, obviously, reflecting on his age, because Mario Mandzukic is now, 33 years of age, so you can quite frankly say he's only got a couple of years left in his footballing career, but I do admire his career, I think he has done really, really well. Don't forget, we did inquire about getting Mario Mandzukic towards the back end of the summer transfer window. And obviously, we are seeing him as an adequate replacement for Romelu Lukaku. But yeah, recent reports have come out about that. There's been a lot of talks recently as well about Moussa Dembele from Lyon. Again, he could cost the club a substantial amount of money. Reportedly, we may have to pay around £71 million, to get, Moussa Dembele on the board. Moussa Dembele is an out-and-out number 9. He is a proven goal scorer. I think, he scored 20 goals with Lyon last season. He's now into his second season with Lyon. Obviously, last season was his debut season with Lyon. But yeah, I think in total at the moment he's made in all competitions 58 appearances, I think, and scored 28 goals. He is only 23 years of age. He is under contract. With Lyon, I think, until 2023. Lyon did pay a reasonable figure for him. I think they did pay around £20 million to him last summer. Obviously, from Celtic, and he did have a good couple of years with Celtic. Did Moussa Dembele during his tenure with Celtic, he won the Scottish Premiership twice, he won the Scottish Cup twice, and he won the Scottish League Cup twice. And before I was at Celtic, obviously, as you all know, he began his senior career with Fulham, did Moussa Dembele, and he actually, did really, really well for Fulham. And I think at that current time, there was quite a few teams, that were, tracking him. But yeah, a very, very good player. But he only 23 years of age, and I think he's actually feeling now unsettled with Lyon. But yeah, would he be the right calibre player for Manchester United? Moussa Dembele. We do know there's been also a lot of talks going on about James Maddison from Leicester. Again, we're going to have to pay a substantial amount for him, if we do want to recommend him into the football club. Don't forget, we inquired about getting James Maddison, during the course of the summer. And I think if Leicester, are willing to do business with James Maddison, I think, they'll probably demand a similar sort of figure, to what they did do for Harry Maguire, because we did best business with Leicester in the summer, because obviously, we paid £80 million for Harry Maguire. So, like I said, Leicester will probably demand around £70 or £80 million for James Maddison. James Maddison is predominantly an attacking midfielder. He could, don't get me wrong, he can also... He can also, play him as a winner, James Maddison. Well, he can play on the left because, Brendan Rodgers has played him on the left quite a few times, but he is predominantly an attacking midfielder. And again, I think he would be the right calibre player for Manchester United. He is only 22 years of age. He's now into his second season with Leicester. I think he's enjoyed a great start to this season. He did well last season, his debut season with Leicester. He has still got 4 years left on his current contract with Leicester. Leicester did pay around £20 million for him last summer from Norwich. He had, like I mentioned, a good couple of years with Norwich. So he's also another player on our agenda. But yeah, so it is good, that we are making plans for January and that. But like I mentioned, I said at the start of the summer, maybe we should orchestrate on, being sensible with our recruitment. Because like I mentioned, it's not always about spending big on players and getting them glad-to-go players and that. It doesn't always guarantee success. And that's been proven with Manchester United in the last, 6 or 7 years. Because obviously, we're known for overpaying for players. Obviously, a lot of money has been invested into the football club, since the Alex Ferguson era, around nearly £150 million spent under Solsjaker, just under £400 million spent under Mourinho, £200 million spent under Van Gaal, and around £60 million spent under, David Moyes. So if my calculation's right, I think, we spent around £700 million, on players. That's not far away from, that's just under £1 billion. So, and that's not taking into account, of course, what was spent under the Alex Ferguson era. But yeah, so like I mentioned, it's good, that we are, thinking about who to get in for the January window. But our recruitment policy, isn't too good anywhere, to be quite honest with you. But the board have got to be ruthless in January and next summer, if you do currently ask me. But like I mentioned, maybe we won't, spend a substantial amount in January. Maybe we'll leave most of the transfer business until next summer and that, because reflecting back last January, obviously the club made a big mistake, and that was obviously recommending Alexis Sanchez to the football club. Don't forget, we got Sanchez in last January. Obviously, he's part of a swap deal with Mkhitaryan going to Arsenal. And, Sanchez obviously, endured a difficult 18 months with Manchester United. He managed only 5 goals, I think, in 45 games in all competitions. Obviously, we know that Sanchez obviously is now left the football club. He has gone to Inter Milan on loan. Obviously, I think it's a 10-month loan or something like that. As you all know, there's no obligation to buy for Inter Milan, of course, to make the deal permanent at the end of the loan. But even if Sanchez, would have stayed at Manchester United, he only would have been a short game time in the Europa League and the Carabao Cup games and that. But he was a problematic player for Manchester United. But despite the fact that Sanchez is on loan with Inter Milan, I still believe the football club are still paying the vast majority of his wages. I still believe Man United are paying Sanchez around 300 grand a week. But that was one mistake Man United did, ever, recommended Alexis Sanchez into the football club, because he didn't perform to the standards, as we all expected, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, and like I mentioned, Italy's been a very popular destination for the vast majority of our players that have left this summer, because obviously, a lot of our players have gone to Italy, who of course have left the football club. Obviously now, as we say, we have got a lot of players on big contracts at Manchester United. Like I mentioned, we've got Rashford on around 300 odd grand a week. You've got Martial on 200 grand a week. You've got Pogba on just under 300 grand a week. You've got Harry Maguire on 200 odd grand a week. You've got Jess Lingard on just over 100 grand a week. You got David De Gea on 375 grand a week. He's the highest paid goalkeeper in the world. So we have got players on substantial wages at the football club, as you all know. But, like I said, it's worse. It's actually worse under the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer era, than what it was under the Jose Mourinho era. And I've already explained the reasons, why it didn't work out under the Jose Mourinho era, is because obviously, Jose Mourinho at the time, he had bad disputes with the board. He had bad disputes with the top players. Obviously, the board weren't backing the signings that I wanted to recommend into the football club last summer. And Jose Mourinho had a 2.5-year tenure at the football club. He did win the Europa League and League Cup in his first season with Manchester United. But in my opinion, I think we recommended him in too late. If we'd have recommended him in after the Alex Ferguson era, then you could arguably say that it may have been a different scenario with Manchester United. And like I pinpointed out, I think the mistake Alex Ferguson made was obviously recommending David Moyes, and I think he should have recommended Jose Mourinho. But yeah, the club's made quite a few mistakes in the last 6 or 7 years. I think it was also a mistake from the football club getting rid of Ander Herrera. That was one mistake, because you could arguably say that Ander Herrera was one of our best players since the Alex Ferguson era. I think he had 3.5, 4 good years out of the 5 he was here, because Ander Herrera did make a big difference in that midfield, and it infuriated me more the club letting him go on a free transfer. I was very, very frustrated about that. But definitely in January, we've got to try and recruit a replacement for him. We've got to try and recruit a replacement for him. But like I said, reflecting on our bad run of performances, without a shadow of a doubt, Ole Gunnar Solsjaker, is accountable for that. But we have, got quite a lot of injuries. But you can take that into account. But obviously, it's not used as an excuse. Basically, I know we've actually, got quite a few imperative players out through injury. I know, obviously, the vast majority of our players now that are injured are expected to regain full fitness for the game against Liverpool on Sunday. Like I mentioned, Martial should be back. Luke Shaw should be back because Martial and Luke Shaw missed the last 6 or 7 games, obviously, due to injury. Martial's been out with a thigh injury. Luke Shaw's been out with a hamstring injury. And they're two imperative players in that. And I thought Anthony Martial, enjoyed a really good start to the season, obviously, before he sustained the thigh injury. Martial and Luke Shaw have both not played, since the 2-1 home defeat to Crystal Palace. But it got confirmed at the start of the season anyway that Anthony Martial has been given that number 9 shirt. I think he's more effective in that central position, even though Martial, does predominantly, play out on the left. He does predominantly play out on the left, does Martial, but I think he's more effective in that central position. And like I said, Martial now is into his 5th season at Manchester United. Martial, of course, has scored over 50 goals for the football club. Since his arrival from Monaco back in 2015. And Martial has been, since the Louis van Gaal era. And Martial is still only 23 years of age. But we do know the difference he does make in that, attacking their line. But yeah, he should be back for Liverpool. Like I mentioned, Luke Shaw, a lot of people talk about, Luke Shaw being injury prone, and I think Luke Shaw is injury prone because, he has sustained, quite a few injuries as a Manchester United player, and that, we all know that. But I won't put him into the same extent as Eric Bailly. He's not to his extent of, on the injuries and that, because Eric Bailly's I think, is more injury prone than Luke Shaw, to be quite honest with you. But I think prior to Luke Shaw's injuries and, his bad spell he had under Mourinho, I think he's done really, really well for Man United. And of course, he is our first choice left back. But yeah, we know the difference he does make on that left-hand side. Luke Shaw won the double player of the season last season, reflecting on his impressive performances. Like I mentioned, Eric Bailly, he's too injury prone, is Eric Bailly. This is one of the main factor reasons what makes me think that Man United could move him on in January or next summer. When he's fully fit, he has got great potential, and he holds his line, really, really well, does Bailly. And he's an imperative player, but I just think, the amount of injuries he sustained, it's really had a bad effect on his Manchester United career. Also, with his fallout under managers. I think if we were to sell him, obviously, we'd look to recoup the money that we did pay for him from, Villarreal back in 2016. But yeah, he's out with an injury now. He's not, going to be available until the end of December or the new year. Like I mentioned, Fosu Mensah, obviously, he's been out of injury for quite some time. The good news is Wan-Bissaka is going to be back for Liverpool. He's been out with illness as Wan-Bissaka. He's been out with illness. As you all know, I think he's been out with tonsillitis, so in that aspect he has missed the last 2 league games, and he has missed the last 3 games in all competitions. And a lot of people believe, Wan-Bissaka has been our most consistent signing so far. But yeah, it'd be a relief, to get him back into the Manchester United team, because I think, he's enjoyed a great start to his Man United career. And I think so far this season, he's replicating, what he did with Crystal Palace, is Wan-Bissaka. Jesse Lingard, as you all know, he's been out with a hamstring injury. He really, really needs to step up to the plate, and he needs a reality check, because, like I mentioned on my recent videos, reflecting on Jesse Lingard's status at the football club, he should be putting much more better performances out. So he really needs to step up to the plate. like I mentioned, Jones has been out of injury. Again, I think he's another one of the players that needs to be moved on in January or next summer. I think it was a mistake from the football club, giving Jones a long-term contract last season. Jones is, of course, now into his 9th season as a Manchester United player, so he has been here 8 years. And we have still got a couple of players here from the Ferguson era. We've got Jones still here, Young still here, obviously De Gea and that, and I think, that's about it. But yeah, he has been out with injury, but I think, he should be back soon. Lindelof's obviously, back injury he's got. I think this is the main factor reason why he missed the 1-0 defeat to Newcastle, with this back injury, Victor Lindelof. And I said, analysing the majority of his performances so far this season, I think he's been mainly consistent. Like I mentioned, I think he's had a couple of bad games, but I think prior to that he's done well, and he's actually blended in alongside Harry Maguire in our backline, fantastically well. And I mentioned, Victor Lindelof is flourishing at Manchester United. He's now into his 3rd season at the football club. But yeah, he definitely should be back for Liverpool. Obviously, like I mentioned, Rashford, he was recently injured, but obviously now he's okay. Obviously, I give you the news, didn't I? About Paul Pogba as well. There's been reports circulating out recently saying that he could miss the game against Liverpool with the ongoing foot injury he's got. That's obviously been surrounding the player for a matter of weeks. Obviously, Paul Pogba's missed quite a lot of games so far this season due to injury. He has played in quite a few though also, and he actually hasn't performed to the standards as we all expected. And I think, fitness staff, do fear that Paul Pogba could reportedly be out until the end of October or the beginning of November with his injury. And it did get revealed that he has cracked his toe. But I think, Paul Pogba is fighting to regain full fitness for the game against Liverpool. I still believe Paul Pogba, again, is another player that will leave Manchester United in January or next summer, because I still believe that Paul Pogba does want out of the football club. Now, we do know, obviously, recent reports were speculating, saying that obviously Paul Pogba, was demanding a substantial $600,000 a week from the football club if he was to extend his contract at Man United. Obviously, $600,000 a week equates to around £30 million pounds a year. Equates to around £30 million a year. And, Man United, I think, have become infuriated with Paul Pogba's contract now. Obviously, as it stands at the moment, Paul Pogba's one of the highest paid players anywhere at the football club, because, like I mentioned, he's on, $290,000 a week. So he's on just under $300,000 a week, and he's got 2 years left on his current deal with an option, to extend it by a further year. I still believe his preference is to make a move to Real Madrid, because he was relentlessly linked to a move to Real Madrid, for the entirety of the summer. Obviously, there was talks about him making a return back to Turin, because Paul Pogba had 4 good years in Turin, and that, hasn't mainly, replicated this at Manchester United. I think, Barcelona then inquired about getting him, during the summer. So I still believe Paul Pogba, wants him out the football club without a shadow of a doubt. Don't get me wrong. We have seen Paul Pogba at his best as a Man United player. He did really well in that 3-month period when Ole Gunnar Solsjaker, was the interim manager. And Paul Pogba's still got a lot of development in him. He is still, quite frankly, in his prime, because I think he's 26 years of age, and and that. But Paul Pogba said at the beginning of the summer that, he wanted to leave Manchester United. He publicly admitted, that he, of course, wanted to leave. But yeah, he definitely, in my opinion, still wants out the football club. But but it was initially in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's plans, to build a side around Paul Pogba. But yeah, so maybe he won't be involved in the game against Liverpool. He won't be involved in the game against Liverpool and that. But like I mentioned, this is going to be a big game for Manchester United on Sunday against Liverpool. And obviously, we're massive underdogs, going into this game, because obviously, Liverpool have enjoyed a brilliant start to the season. Well, they've actually got a 100% record so far this season, because obviously Liverpool, have obviously won 8 games out of 8. They've registered 24 points. They're sitting 8 points in front of Man City. I think they're actually sitting 15 points in front of us. And I think, to be fair, it's going to be Liverpool's year. Obviously Liverpool have never won the Premier League since it got founded in 1992. Is it or 93? They haven't won it all in all for 3 decades. So their expectations this season will be obviously, to win the Premier League. Obviously, Jurgen Klopp, won his first major honour last season as Liverpool manager. Obviously, winning the Champions League. And obviously Liverpool now have won the Champions League 6 times. Beat Tottenham last season. And like I mentioned, you never know. I think, for us to salvage anything off Liverpool, I think, we've got to play them out of our skins. Manchester United and Liverpool are still always a big fixture, even though we know at the moment that Liverpool are strides ahead of us. I still think it's a very big fixture. Obviously, they are the 2 most successful clubs in England, historically. They've had so much success of both clubs. Liverpool, I think, have overall won 43 trophies. Obviously, we've won around 42 overall. Won 20 titles. Liverpool have won 18 all the first divisions. But Liverpool's record at Old Trafford isn't that good. They've only won twice at Old Trafford in the Premier League in the last decade. Obviously, so that record is actually really, really bad. It was 0-0 last season. I think Liverpool have recently had Allinson injured. I think they've also had Salah recently injured, if I'm right. I think they've got quite a few other injuries. But yeah, I think Liverpool probably going to win the league this season, even though there is still a long way to go. But like I mentioned, Liverpool invested really, really well. Their transfer policy is really, really good because they didn't sign anyone in the summer, but in the previous windows prior to the summer, they did good investment. They paid 75 million for Van Dijk. They've got Allinson in. I think at this present time he's better than De Gea, but not overall. They've got a good attacking trio in Salah, Firmino and Mane. They show good attacking intent. Them 3 can score goals between them. They can create chances. They can provide. They've got a pretty decent midfield. I think defensively they're really, really good. So, yeah, it's going to be a very, very difficult game. Obviously, it's a game Manchester United do need to win anywhere. We have also got games coming up thick and fast in October. We've got, Liverpool Sunday. Then we've got to Partizan Belgrade. Then we go away to Norwich, I think. Then we go away to Chelsea at the end of the month in the Carabao Cup. So, games are obviously, coming up thick and fast, as you all know. But yeah, it will be a very, very big game. Like I recently gave you the news as well, in regards to the new director of football at Manchester United. Obviously, for the majority of the summer, was looking to recommend a new director of footballing. Because I did say, that's one of the structural changes, that we do need at the football club is getting a new director of footballing. And for the majority of the summer, obviously, there was quite a few former Manchester United players, linked out with the director's role at the football club. And I think, Ed Woodward and that is still looking to recruit a new director of footballing. Obviously, quite recently, there has been a lot of talks about Edwin van der Sar. Obviously, Edwin van der Sar, indicated out that at some point in his future he's interested in making a return to the football club to become the new director of football. And I think he would be reliable, to oversee our transfer business. Obviously he's got the experience. He's currently the chief executive at Ajax. This is now his 4th season with Ajax. He's Edwin van der Sars. But yeah, there has been a lot of talks about him, going on. A lot of Man United fans believe that he would be the right candidate for the football club. But yeah, I think we need to get a director of footballing, if you personally ask me. But yeah, so like I mentioned, there's obviously a list of managers on our agenda, who obviously, could replace Solsjaker at Man United. We know there's still talks ongoing, about, Max Allegri. The talks have been going on about Max Allegri now, at least for the last 3 weeks or something like that. Maybe some Manchester United fans, believe he would be the right candidate. I think Max Allegri indicated out not too long ago that, he would take over at Manchester United if he was to be assured the job within the next few weeks. Like I mentioned, Max Allegri, hasn't been managerless for long. He only stepped down as Juventus manager earlier on in the summer. But yeah, and Max Allegri, I think he's actually learning English in preparation, for his potential move. Max Allegri has got that managerial experience because he's been managing for just over 16 years. He began his managerial career in 2003. Most of the majority of his silverware he won anyway came at Juventus because Max Allegri, did have 5 years there with Juventus, and that he's actually spent the entirety of his managerial career in Italy. Also spent the entirety of his playing career in Italy. But yeah, I think he's actually our primary candidate to replace Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And we know other managers have been thrown into the equation. Pochettino's still getting spoken about, even though he's no longer the club's top priority. Obviously, there's some Man United fans that would like to see Wenger come in. There's people talking about Brendan Rodgers and that. But maybe Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, will last this season. So, if he does get sacked, then obviously, we'll talk about who we think's going to be the right man, to take him over at the football club at this present time. At the moment, Solskjaer and that is still here. But actually, before we recommended Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in, don't forget, we was in for Mauricio Pochettino for quite a while. My only element of concern I've got about Pochettino is that, he hasn't won out in terms of silverware, but he is highly experienced and he is well Premier League proven. A lot of Man United fans believe, he would be the right candidate. He's good at developing young players. He's obviously under pressure now at Tottenham because Tottenham have enjoyed a really bad start to the season. And I think this is now Pochettino's 6th season at Tottenham. He's been there, 5 years now? And I think, he's mainly done really, really well. Probably Man United would have to pay 32 million in compensation to recommend him to the football club and that. Even though there's no release clause in the contract he's got. I think he signed this 5-year contract last summer, did Mauricio Pochettino. But Pochettino has been managing now for just over a decade because he began his managerial career in 2009. Yeah. But like I mentioned, reflecting on the amount of money that's been invested into this football club, we should be much more of a commanding position, than we now. And this is just not, basically acceptable. But yeah, so there's a lot of people still saying, we should give Ole Gunnar Solskjaer more time at the football club. But yeah, so that's mainly a thing to update you with. So Solskjaer's got 6 transfer targets. He has given her to Ed Woodward. So that's maybe what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer thinks. We probably need around 6 signings and that. This is what obviously he thinks. But like I mentioned, there's been no improvements under Solskjaer, than what I saw under Mourinho, Louis van Gaal, and of course David Moyes. Yeah, so anyway guys, drop your comments, likes below on the channel. If you do, consider subscribing as always, and take care, God bless, and I'll see you all again very, very soon. Thanks for watching.